49ers update. On my way to the facility, one of the best breakfast sandwiches in the Bay. This is the steak and eggs from Fambrini's in Palo Alto. Good fuel today for locker clean-out day for the 49ers. The piece of news that we have just gotten on the way into the facility is that the Jets have requested to interview 49ers quarterbacks coach Brian Griese, who obviously has a great track record with the 49ers. He's overseen the Brock Purdy development, a really good year from Jimmy Garoppolo in 2022, the Sam Darnold turnaround in 2023. So very good reason that Brian Griese is attracting coaching interest from elsewhere. I think the 49ers should brace for more of this. And I do have to say that the Jets seem to be wanting to interview everybody for their head coaching vacancy. I mean, Bobby Slowick is on this list. Arthur Smith is on the list of requested interviewees, and of course, Brian Griese as well. We're going to collect a whole lot more information about what the 49ers should do, shouldn't do, what they might do over the course of the next few days. I'm on my way to the facility now. In the car, I was able to do an interview with KMBR, which you can listen to right now, regarding the 49ers and the initial aftermath of this disappointing 2024 season. One more time, the steak and eggs from Fambrini's. Everybody take care.
All right, let's do it, man. David Lombardi of the San Francisco Standard is here to put a bow on a 6-11 Warriors season, 6-11 Warriors season, 6-11 49ers season. The Warriors have their own problems. David, good morning. How are you?
Hey, David.
Good morning. Just landed. So now I'm on my way down to the facility because they're going to be cleaning out their lockers today. Exit interviews are happening. And I think I'll be back there tomorrow as well because I don't think that Shanahan and Lynch will hold their press conference until tomorrow. So we get to put a bow on everything, I guess, with our conversation right now and then over the next 2 days.
All right, sounds good. And David Lombardi of the San Francisco Standard is on the UMA guest line. All right, so many different ways to start. Let's talk about defense. And just go for just sort of the obvious question, David. Is your opinion or evaluation of Nick Sorensen and Brandon Staley, do they keep their jobs in your best estimation, or the availability of Bob Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich, and now Lou Anarumo even, does that put them into jeopardy?
Well, just 25 days ago, they put together that game against the Rams where Nick Bosa was back, Dre Greenlaw was back, Talanoa Hufanga was back. I know the 49ers lost that game, but it really wasn't the defense's fault. That one was much more on the offense. And at that time, it looked like they were turning a corner with the personnel available again. It seemed that things might be starting to click because it was also following the Bears game where they looked good. But that was the last time the 49ers were in contention this season. They were eliminated with that loss, and then some other stuff happened around the league. So before they took the field against Miami, they were no longer in contention. And over the final 3 games, the defensive performance just absolutely fell off a cliff. So after that game against the Rams, I would have said, everybody's on track to return. But given how thoroughly they were dominated over the past 3 weeks, and you heard Nick Bosa and Fred Warner both say that it was embarrassing to the 49ers defense, I think anything is on the table for the 49ers. You just cannot get beaten that badly. They gave up over 38 points per game and over 150 rushing yards per game over the final 3. And in this league, the way that you respond when you are eliminated, I think is important. A lot of fans, I'm sure, checked out after the game against the Rams. But if I go back to 49ers teams in 2018, a 49ers team in 2020, which was the last time that they had a losing season, they fought defensively until the very end. They weren't giving up the ugly numbers that the defense has given up over the past 3 games. So I think that's why everything is on the table. I think that, Kyle Shanahan yesterday, he goes through his injury report in the press conference after the game, and then he starts taking questions. Yesterday, he made a preemptive statement. He said, hey, guys, I'm not ready to talk about the futures of coaches or players. I need to, handle this in-house first, which to me was a sign that this is going to be a busy few days. I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but something's going to happen here over the next few days.
The 49ers have not only had issues defensively, but, David, they've had a bunch of issues on special teams also, which leads to my next question about Brian Schneider and his future with the team. I know your former colleague Matt Barrows suggested the idea of maybe Nick Sorensen being moved into a special teams role, but what do you think the future is for Brian Schneider with the 49ers?
Well, the fact that they gave up conversions on fake punts not once but twice in the same season after that, a similar type of play has gotten them in the past. It was not a good look for the special teams unit. I have to zoom out here and point out that special teams have been bad for the 49ers regardless of who's been the coordinator under Kyle Shanahan. And at some point you have to take the larger organizational look and also point out that Brian Schneider was a coordinator who got really good results over about a decade with the Seattle Seahawks. So, especially with special teams, you're working with the players that you're given. And I think a lot of times, and this is probably the case with the 49ers, you're being handed some leftovers. The coach like Bill Belichick, somebody like Pete Carroll, for whom Brian Schneider worked in the past, I think special teams were a much bigger point of emphasis for those teams. And, you can even go back to the 49ers in 2011 when they were the top special teams unit in the entire league. There were players on special teams that were true specialists there that were helping that unit ascend to the top five or, in the case of the 2011 49ers, the very top spot in the league. The 49ers under Kyle Shanahan have consistently ranked in the bottom half of the league, and this year in the very bottom of the league on special teams. So it's going to be hard to retain Brian Schneider when you lost nearly 60 expected points. That was the very worst in the league on special teams. But even if he is let go, what's to say the 49ers are going to turn this into an above average special teams unit? They just don't have that track record so far under Kyle Shanahan. So I think it's going to take an organizational recalibration and refocus on special teams because they're just losing way too much efficiency there, regardless of who's been the coordinator over the past several years.
And of course, David, we can't talk about the special teams unit without talking about Jake Moody. Missed another field goal yesterday. What do you think his future looks like with the 49ers?
So that's really interesting because he had only missed one kick before the high ankle sprain, and then he's been about a 50% kicker ever since coming back from the high ankle sprain. So obviously the injury, whether it be the physical after effects or just, the rhythm and the mental after effects, which obviously are something that can pose a great danger to kicker and his performance. Obviously, that was the inflection point for Jake Moody. The 49ers believe that he's got a whole lot of talent. I think it's clear that he has a whole lot of talent. We've seen him hit field goals near 60 yards, but obviously the consistency has just gone out the window ever since that injury. If you cut him, he still has, 2 years under contract right now with the 49ers. So if you cut him and open this up to the rest of the league, we've seen it happen before with kickers. They find a change of scenery, and especially the talented ones, they have a chance to really go perform elsewhere. So I don't know if it makes a whole lot of sense for the 49ers to cut him. I think it makes a lot of sense for the 49ers to use one of their 90 roster spots this offseason on competition for Jake Moody so that they have options come training camp. But at this place, I do feel that they're stuck in between a rock and a hard place. And I do think that they acknowledge that high ankle sprain was this major inflection point. The question is, can Jake Moody regain the confidence that he seems to have lost when that injury and that return did happen?
Wow, that'll be one of the many interesting things we follow. David Lombardi of the San Francisco Standard covers the 49ers. He's on the UMA guest line. By the way, just reading all the social media is just scrolling in front of our faces here. Seahawks fire their offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb. So all these things are happening, which leads me to believe, Anarumo out in Cincy, Grubb out in Seattle. I'm wondering, does that make you think something sooner rather than later?
Yeah, typically this kind of stuff happens right after the season ends. I mean, it was just a couple days after the Super Bowl when Kyle Shanahan fired Steve Wilks. And Anarumo's interesting because the Bengals were in a situation that wasn't all too different from the 49ers this year. They had a very good offense. I mean, Burrow had an awesome year. The offense was even better than the 49ers. The 49ers also won great this year, but they finished ranked number 11 out of 32 teams in the EPA, expected points added per play. Purdy was number 7 in QBR. So I think all things considered, it was a solid season for him. But Burrow was number 3 in QBR, and the Bengals defense was number 27 in the EPA, and the 49ers defense was number 26. So in both cases, you had the example of a team, that was getting solid quarterback play, but was sunk by factors outside of the offense. In the 49ers case, the special teams added a huge role in that downfall. But for the Bengals, it was a defense that just couldn't support a really good QB and an offense. So they fired their defensive coordinator, who actually had some prestige, had some pedigree, in league circles. And Nick Sorensen for the 49ers doesn't have any of that. This was his first year as a defensive coordinator, and the bottom truly fell out for the 49ers defense down the stretch.
David, we can't let you go without asking a question about Brock Purdy. Today is the first day that he's eligible for a contract extension. How do you think that process plays out this summer?
I think it's straightforward. The quarterback market is the quarterback market. Purdy has proven to be a really good quarterback in this league. There's so much talk about this and that, but just look at the results. Again, the only objective way that we could measure this, we can't be looking at individual clips of plays on Twitter without looking at the big picture, because he's got spectacular plays and he's got some bad plays, just like any quarterback to have ever played the game. So if we want to look at the big picture, he was number 7 in QBR this year. He was top 10 across the board of advanced analytics. That means that he's your franchise. You decided before this season he was your franchise quarterback. What he put on tape this season should have just verified that. I think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have already said it verified that for them. So they're going to have to pay up. I don't know exactly what the average per year is going to be, nor does that really matter. What matters is the structure of the contract. So they're going to have to find a way to fit a large contract, which is going to be near the top of all quarterbacks, maybe at the top of all quarterbacks, and they're going to fit it into their salary cap structure so they can build a team around Brock Purdy, because we saw this year how important it is for any team, whether it be Joe Burrow's Bengals or Brock Purdy's 49ers. It has to be a team. It's not just about one guy. You have to have enough to build a good defense and special teams around that quarterback.
No shortage, man, about freaking 100 topics for you to write about this offseason. So we'll let you go. We appreciate you calling on your way down to Santa Clara, and we will read you in the San Francisco Standard. So thanks, David.
Yeah, thanks, David.
Awesome. Thank you again.